What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Talk. Today, let's get started with Petr Yan has made it clear that he does not believe a rematch with Merab Dvalishvili should happen immediately. Following his shocking victory over The Machine, many fans expected Yan to embrace the idea of completing the trilogy. Instead, he took a different stance, one that instantly sparked debate throughout the MMA community. Merab entered their rematch carrying one of the most impressive winning streaks in UFC bantamweight history. In their first meeting, he dominated Yan from bell to bell, overwhelming him with relentless pressure, world-class wrestling, and a suffocating pace that many considered one of the most dominant bantamweight performances ever. Because of this, fans felt the rivalry was too big to leave unfinished. But last night's fight completely flipped the storyline. Over the course of a chaotic, high-energy 5-round battle, Yan reminded the world why he has long been viewed as one of the elite 135-pound fighters. His timing and defensive reads were sharp, his forward pressure was disciplined, and his takedown defense held strong against a wrestler who typically breaks every opponent he faces. Yan outworked Dvalishvili from start to finish, earning praise from Dana White, who applauded both men for delivering an absolute war and showing unmatched determination. However, when asked whether Merab deserves an immediate trilogy fight, Yan didn't hesitate. He responded calmly, suggesting that Merab should take some time to recover, relax, get the boys together, and think things over before pushing for another fight. Yan made it clear that he does not feel the Georgian star automatically earns a rematch just because the series is now 1-1. When pressed about what should come next, another fight with Merab or a matchup with Umar Nurmagomedov, Yan referenced Merab versus Umar's previous meeting, hinting that both men should settle their rivalry again before he considers fighting either of them. He also pointed out that when he was fighting to return to title contention, the UFC required him to win 3 additional fights before earning another top position. In his view, Merab should be held to the same standard. With this victory, the bantamweight division has been shaken once again, and the path forward is anything but predictable. Before we jump into the next story, we have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying the content, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon. It really helps us out, and ensures you'll never miss an update. Moving on to another news, Dana White has finally addressed both Arman Tsarukyan's situation and the recent comments made by Tom Aspinall regarding his eye injury. The UFC president used the UFC 323 post-fight press conference to clear the air after Aspinall claimed Dana had downplayed the severity of his condition. According to Dana, the misunderstanding stemmed from miscommunication. He explained that he was merely repeating information he had received from medical staff and others who were monitoring Aspinall at the time. He emphasized that there was absolutely no disrespect intended toward the heavyweight champion, and that the UFC would never minimize a fighter's health concerns. Henry Cejudo also weighed in, warning Aspinall to be cautious when speaking publicly about Dana White. Cejudo reminded him that Dana is the boss who ultimately makes decisions regarding fight bookings, title opportunities, and the trajectory of a fighter's career. Despite the tension, Aspinall remains scheduled for a rematch with Cyril Gane, expected sometime in 2026. However, because of his lingering eye injury, he has been unable to resume training, and his timeline for recovery remains uncertain. Dana confirmed that the UFC is monitoring his progress closely, ensuring that he will not return until he is fully cleared and ready for high-level competition. Fans are eagerly waiting for updates, as the heavyweight rematch is considered one of the most anticipated future clashes. Shifting to Arman Tsarukyan, Dana made it clear that a title shot is not in Arman's immediate future. Despite Tsarukyan's dominant performance against Dan Hooker at UFC Qatar, Dana does not believe he has earned the right to challenge Ilia Topuria next, nor did he ever hint that Arman would be the next contender after Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett. Instead, Dana stated that Arman needs additional wins to climb back into title contention. He pushed back against the idea that Tsarukyan is the odd man out, but emphasized that Arman had a major opportunity in the past, and failed to capitalize in a way that warrants a fast track back to the top. Dana stressed. Moving on to another news, Robert Whittaker has joined the growing chorus of fighters and analysts praising Petr Yan after his stunning, dominant victory over Merab Dvalishvili at UFC 323. Yan's performance has been described as one of the most impressive comebacks in modern UFC history, a display of elite skill, discipline, and championship composure. Coming into the fight, Merab carried a massive 14-fight winning streak and had built a reputation as one of the most relentless wrestlers the sport has ever seen. Yet Yan not only neutralized Merab's wrestling, he controlled the fight in every major phase. he defended 27 of 29 takedown attempts, an extraordinary 93% rate, while outstriking Merab consistently across 5 grueling rounds. Even more impressively, Yan landed takedowns of his own, showing that he was not simply avoiding Merab's strengths. He was willing to challenge them directly. With this win, Yan improves to 20-5 and joins an elite group of bantamweights, including Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw, who have managed to reclaim championship gold after losing it. Media outlets like Yahoo Sports called the victory seismic, noting how it halted Merab's run toward Fighter of the Year after an incredible stretch of title defenses in 2025. Merab himself admitted after the fight that he chose to stand and trade more than usual in an attempt to make the bout entertaining, but he acknowledged that Yan was simply the better fighter that night. Official scorecards read 49-46 twice and 48-47 once, though many fans and analysts felt Yan swept all 5 rounds. Robert Whittaker, a former UFC middleweight champion known for his analytical fight breakdowns, was particularly impressed. He noted that the version of Yan who stepped into the octagon that night resembled the pre-Sterling era champion, the Petr Yan, who seemed to have an answer for every position. Whittaker praised Yan's complete skill set: world-class wrestling, strong jiu-jitsu fundamentals, precise kickboxing, and seamless transitions. He highlighted how Yan not only shut down Merab's pressure, but took the fight to him, never slowing down, never giving up a single meaningful position. Whittaker went as far as to say that the Petr Yan, who fought at UFC 323, may not lose to anyone in the division. He called it the most clinical, leveled-up version of Yan the sport has ever seen. With this monumental win, the UFC is widely expected to book a trilogy fight between Yan and Merab in mid-2026, a matchup that would finally bring closure to one of bantamweight's greatest rivalries. Moving on to another news, Khamzat Chimaev has found himself at the center of major controversy following his latest ESPN interview, where he boldly claimed that Alex Pereira is scared of him and running away from a potential fight. The comments immediately ignited backlash across social media, with fans accusing Chimaev of being delusional and disrespectful toward a 2-division UFC champion who has consistently taken on the toughest possible challenges. Many argued that Chimaev's comments were especially misplaced given Pereira's current ambitions. The Brazilian star is publicly pushing for a heavyweight showdown with Jon Jones, a far more dangerous matchup than a fight with Chimaev at middleweight or light heavyweight. Fans mocked the call-out, calling it tone-deaf and overly confident, especially considering Chimaev's recent inactivity and uncertainty surrounding his weight class. Pereira himself has made his direction very clear. He wants his next fight at heavyweight. He has no interest in defending his light heavyweight title against Carlos Ulberg, and has his sights set on something bigger, either Jon Jones or the winner of Tom Aspinall vs. Cyril Gane. His ambitions come on the heels of his dominant UFC 320 victory, where he avenged his previous loss to Magomed Ankalaev with brutal ground-and-pound elbows that reminded the world why he remains one of the UFC's most dangerous finishers. In a recent Instagram update, Pereira also revealed that he hasn't trained on the mats since UFC 320, due to a lingering foot injury sustained during the fight. Despite this setback, he reassured fans that his recovery is progressing well, and that he expects to return to competition in early 2026. His long-term goal appears unchanged: to build one of the most impressive multi-division legacies the sport has ever seen. Meanwhile, Chimaev doubled down in his interview, insisting that UFC officials simply do not want Pereira to fight him. He dismissed Pereira's claims about being the bigger star, arguing that even a simple Instagram story from him generates more attention than Pereira's fights. Chimaev reiterated his belief that Pereira is not on his level, although he acknowledged the Brazilian's elite striking and knockout power. According to Chimaev, if fans around the world were asked who would win, 99% would choose me. The debate has now taken on a life of its own, with fans, analysts, and fighters weighing in on whether Chimaev's confidence is justified, or if he crossed a line in calling out. Moving on to another news, Donald Trump surprised the combat sports world with a massive announcement during his remarks at the Kennedy Center Honors Gala, revealing plans for what could become the most ambitious and star-studded UFC event in the promotion's history. Speaking to attendees, Trump stated that the UFC will host a historic fight card on June 14th next year as part of the United States' 250th birthday celebration, an event he described as a blend of national pride, entertainment, and global attention. According to Trump, the card is expected to feature 8 or 9 championship fights, more than doubling the UFC's previous record of 3 title bouts on a single event. He emphasized that Dana White is holding back fights for 6 months to ensure that UFC 250 becomes a monumental moment for the sport. The event will take place in a custom-built arena positioned directly in front of the White House, with seating for approximately 5,000–6,000 people. Additionally, Trump mentioned that more than 100,000 fans would be able to watch from the South Lawn, where massive viewing screens will be installed to accommodate the overflow crowd. Beyond the fights themselves, the celebration will include a high-profile pre-event dinner featuring government officials, international dignitaries, and VIP guests seated alongside Trump and Dana White. The combination of White House prestige, elite MMA matchups, and a spectacle-sized viewing audience has fans buzzing on social media. Clips of Trump's announcement are going viral, with viewers arguing over fantasy matchups, potential title defenses, and which champions might appear on the card. However, there are conflicting reports. Outlets such as MMA Junkie have noted that while the card will indeed feature major stars, it is unlikely to include every UFC champion. They suggest that the event, though historic, may not reach the 9-title fight figure Trump mentioned. Still, the hype continues to build as the UFC's broadcast deal shifts to Paramount in 2026, increasing expectations for record-breaking viewership. Trump closed his remarks by expressing how overwhelming the demand for tickets has already been, calling UFC 250 a night that will be unlike anything the sport has ever seen. With its unique White House backdrop and unprecedented scale, the event is already shaping up to be one of the most talked about occasions in UFC history. Moving on to another news, Yan-Topuria has found himself at the center of controversy once again, this time because of his escalating feud with former bantamweight champion Petr Yan. The tensions reignited shortly after Yan's recent victory, when he spoke with Russian outlet Golos OV MMA and delivered a much sharper, more aggressive assessment of Merab Dvalishvili than anything he had said in English-language interviews. Yan bluntly stated that he broke Merab, comments that quickly spread across social media and inevitably reached Yan-Topuria, someone who has had friction with Yan for years. Their rivalry actually dates back to 2018, when a young 21-year-old Topuria was originally scheduled to make his UFC debut against Yan. The matchup fell apart, with Yan ultimately facing Jinsu Sun instead, but the competitive tension and personal heat never fully went away. Now, following Yan's post-fight remarks, Topuria took to Instagram Live to deliver a direct warning to him. This added fuel to an already heated environment, especially considering that Ilya has built a reputation for clashing verbally with numerous fighters throughout the UFC roster, from Bilal Muhammad to Cody Garbrandt, and many others. With the back and forth growing louder online, Dana White was eventually asked to comment on the situation. Rather than adding to the drama, the UFC president dismissed the uproar entirely. Dana made it clear that he had no intention of entertaining the idea that Topuria's comments were a big deal, pointing out that this kind of verbal sparring is simply part of the fight game. According to Dana, fans and media shouldn't be shocked when fighters take shots at each other, especially after a heated match or a high-emotion moment. That's combat sports. Dana explained that trash talk happens in every major sport, from the NBA to the NFL to baseball, and the UFC is no different. Emotions run high, rivalries flare up, and fighters express themselves freely. That is not only expected, but part of what makes the sport compelling. He emphasized that the UFC will never step in to control what fighters say publicly, and there will never be a point where the organization tells an athlete what they can or can't. Moving on to another news, Merab Dvalishvili's coach, John Wood, has finally addressed the growing criticism surrounding the advice he gave between rounds during Merab's recent fight against Petr Yan. Many fans and analysts argued that Wood misled Merab by telling him he was winning, despite the fact that he appeared to be trailing on the judges' scorecards. The corner advice quickly became one of the most hotly debated topics from the event, with some suggesting it may have altered Merab's approach in the later rounds. In a recent interview with Ariel Helwani, Wood took full responsibility for the misjudgment. He explained that, in real time, he genuinely believed Merab had edged the early rounds. According to Wood, the pressure Merab applied, his volume, and his forward movement created the impression that they were ahead. Only upon reviewing the fight afterward did Wood realize that Yan had produced the more significant moments, landing the cleaner and more damaging strikes that swayed both the judges and the public perception. Wood admitted that the heat of the moment can distort perspective, especially when adrenaline is high in the corner and emotions are tied to the performance. He emphasized that the bleeding, visible reactions, and optics of the fight play a huge role, often more than coaches realize in real time. Wood acknowledged that this experience has reinforced the importance of remaining objective and ensuring that corner advice is accurate and helpful. If he made a mistake, he said, it's one he is committed to learning from so it does not happen again. Meanwhile, former champion Sean O'Malley weighed in on the situation, expressing his belief that the UFC is unlikely to book a rematch between Merab and Petr Yan anytime soon. O'Malley argued that Yan's dominance in the most recent fight makes a repeat matchup unnecessary. Conveniently for O'Malley, Merab losing the belt improves his own path back to a title opportunity, especially since he already holds a narrow victory over the current champion, Petr Yan, a fight many fans still view as razor close. Looking ahead, the bantamweight division remains stacked. Umar Nurmagomedov is expected to face Davison Figueiredo for the next title shot once Merab and Yan eventually settle their rivalry, potentially in 2026. Umar continues to be regarded as one of the most technically gifted fighters. And moving on to another news, Ilia Topuria has once again found himself at the center of attention, despite not being part of the event itself. Following Petr Yan's recent victory, Yan gave a candid interview to the Russian outlet Golos OV MMA, where his tone toward Merab Dvalishvili was noticeably harsher than anything he had previously said in English interviews. This time, Yan did not sugarcoat his thoughts. He boldly claimed that he broke Merab, pointing to the visible damage inflicted during the fight. According to Yan, no one in the division had ever managed to hurt Merab the way he did, and he insisted that the Georgian fighter simply broke under the pressure. These comments immediately went viral, spreading across social media and drawing reactions from fans, fighters, and analysts. Among those who chimed in was UFC lightweight champion Ilia Topuria, who jumped into the conversation during an Instagram live session. Topuria, who has a long and complicated history with Yan, offered his own breakdown of Merab's performance, while also issuing a pointed warning toward Yan. The tension between Topuria and Yan isn't new. Years ago, when Topuria was dominating the featherweight division and Yan was a top contender at bantamweight, there were genuine discussions about a potential super fight between them. Their aggressive, technical striking styles had fans convinced it could be an explosive matchup. Although the bout never materialized, the rivalry never quite faded away. Now, Yan's recent comments have reignited that dormant heat. Topuria spoke passionately during his livestream, defending Merab and urging Yan to be more careful with his words. He reminded everyone that Merab is not just a fellow fighter, but someone he considers a brother and family. He emphasized that the sport has its highs and lows, but true fighters rise again, and he firmly believes Merab will return stronger, faster, and more dangerous than ever. Topuria then addressed Yan directly, telling him to watch your words and to show the respect that fighters owe one another. He made it clear that no one is looking for unnecessary problems, but disrespect will not be tolerated. With these remarks, the long-standing tension between Topuria and Yan has once again been pushed into the spotlight, setting the stage